I want to tell you a story of the many years I spent climbing in the Adirondacks. In 1972, when I was 15 years old, my father moved us to downtown Montreal. There, I made a friend who was an Adirondack 46er, which means he had climbed all 46 mountains over 4,000 feet high in the Adirondacks High Peaks region near Lake Placid, New York. Well, he introduced me to that passion, and I continued climbing from that age until age 46 or 47, somewhere around 2004, where my knees were no longer dependable enough. I tell you this because I want to play you an excerpt from a video that I produced last year for the book The Way to Kealo. I recalled a lot of my mountain climbing experiences for the writing of the third part of that book. So I'm going to play you that excerpt now, and then afterwards I'll come back and have a few more things to say about it. The first was Cascade in the North High Peaks East region. Years later I climbed Porter, and then I climbed Big Slide from Keene Valley. Cascade became the go-to mountain for preparing for bigger and more difficult climbs. I would often climb it the day before I would do a lengthy hike. I tackled the Marcy Group East. I climbed Marcy, the tallest of all the mountains, Gray, Skylight, and Haystack. In the McIntyre Mountains, I climbed Wright, Algonquin, Iroquois, and Marshall. Wright was an interesting mountain. In 1962, a B-47 bomber crashed into Wright Peak. There are still pieces of the crash to be found if you look closely. In Marcy Group West, I climbed Colden, Redfield, and Allen. Using the Marcy Trail, I climbed Phelps and Tabletop in the North High Peak West. The first time I climbed Phelps, I accidentally left my kit on top beside a large rock. I went back to retrieve it. That day, I climbed Phelps twice. Next came Giant in eastern Adirondacks, and in the Colvin Range, I climbed Dial, Colvin, Nippletop, and Blake. For that climb, I was in country for 8 days. It was my first lengthy stay. The longest I was ever in was 13 days, and that was in the Great Range. Lower Wolfjaw, Upper Wolfjaw, Armstrong, Gothics, Saddleback, Sawteeth, and Basin. It was difficult, but I enjoyed every moment of that adventure. I climbed several of these mountains more than once. I thought about becoming a 46er, but I discovered of myself that it wasn't about that. I loved the area and did what I wanted to do each time I planned to climb. For me, the journey was the important thing. I climbed Mount Marcy 7 times. It is a magnificent climb. The first time that my son and I attempted to climb Marcy, the weather fought us all the way. We had to turn back. The following year, we successfully reached the summit. It was June 1997, and there was still snow on top. In my book, Unfolded and Grown, I describe that first failed climb. Oh yes, it was very much a failed climb. Whenever I went up those mountains, though, I think every single time I finally reached the peaks of those mountains, and I got a chance to look around, and even beforehand, and some of the views were amazing, I felt something. Yes, I was religious for most of those times that I climbed, it's true. But I also felt something, dare I say, spiritual. I don't use that word anymore. But I'll tell you, this one time, and this is when I was in the Pentecostal church. It must have been somewhere in I think around the 1997 mark. And the 3 of us, my son, my ex-wife and I, we went up Cascade, the smallest of all the mountains. And I got to the top, and I turned to her and I said, "Welcome to my church." That did not go over very well. Anyway, I thought I'd throw that in. Well, this has been a story of all those years of me climbing in the Adirondacks.